This will probably be a very unpopular opinion, but I'm going to say it anyways. And if you are involved in jiu-jitsu and you think that you can protect yourself on the street, you're wrong. Jiu-jitsu is phenomenal for controlling people. And yes, I highly recommend that people take jiu-jitsu when they want to learn how to protect themselves. But the thing is that I believe that a lot of people feel that just because they train jiu-jitsu, that they can handle themselves on the street. Now, this is a couple reasons for this. One, it's ego. And you have to understand that, yes, you can dominate, control people, rip arm bars, rip leg locks, but that doesn't apply directly into street altercations. And so the biggest reason as to why jiu-jitsu is not the best for self-defense as just a single-fied discipline is there's a lot of variables that jiu-jitsu does not include. First off, being striking. And honestly, most of the time when I see some high-level jiu-jitsu guys engage in striking for the first time for sport, like if they start learning how to box or Thai box or MMA, their striking looks like a white belt striking. And it's terrible just because they've never striked before. So just because, again, I can choke you on the ground and throw you around and control you and doesn't mean that I can throw punches and I can handle myself in a fight. And so that's kind of like the first thing to take in mind. If you're an MMA fighter, then yeah, you could probably handle yourself pretty well because you're already engaged in grappling, you're already engaged in clinch work, and you're already engaged in striking. So you've got like the trifecta of things that you need in order to be an effective fighter, but that means you're also included in striking. And you have to understand, like if I'm ripping on a heel hook on somebody or if I'm going for leg locks and you're standing over me, like I'm not just gonna sit there and let you just, work on my leg. I'm gonna lean over and I'm just gonna start punching you, which means that you now have to block said punches. But the other thing is that there's a lot, again, if we're talking about like the variables on the street, a lot of the movements and stuff that we do in jiu-jitsu does not apply directly to street fighting, regardless of the situation. And the biggest thing, and Eli Knight said this at one of his recent seminars, once you engage with weapons, the hierarchy of positions in jiu-jitsu drastically changes. So for this video, let's kind of just talk about back control, because I would say that in grappling, and in MMA and jiu-jitsu, back control is probably viewed as the most dominant position to be. You got somebody's back, you got your hooks in. I mean, watch any major UFC fight. They can't hit you, they can't strike you, and you can just rip upon their face, their necks, their arm. Like there's so many things that you can set up from the back. When it comes to the street and you start engaging with weapons and just the street aspect as a whole, it's no longer the most dominant position. Doesn't mean that it can't work, but I would put a very big caution on trying to get to somebody's back on the ground in a street fight, and we're going to show you why. Good jiu-jitsu guys, sure, like against an average person, if it's one-on-one, all right, we're talking a one-on-one fight, don't have to worry about anything else. Like absolutely, I would expect that most blue belts and above can sit here and control a full-size guy on the ground and just simply squeeze and put him to sleep and control the situation, right? But now let's talk about like this exact position when we're on the ground in a real fight, all right? Like I mentioned, if it's a one-on-one, no one else is around you, no weapons are involved, sure, take somebody's back, start working on this, start controlling, like, hey, just calm down, just relax, shh, go to sleep, it's fine, all right? Like this position, absolutely dominant. And again, like obviously whether you have double hooks, body lock, crab ride, whatever, like the purpose is the same, all right? But now let's kind of start talking variables. And number one, let's talk about just like the street in general. First of all, it's not pads. So being on the street with somebody squirming around on top of you and stuff, like it's not going to be comfortable on concrete moving around on your back, all right? So let's just from a comfort standpoint, let's try to avoid the back together, all right? In addition to that, if there are a group of people, and I'll post some videos, you're going to start seeing some clips here in a second, but if we're in this situation and there's a group of people around, the chances of somebody else running in while I'm sitting here squeezing him and somebody's, runs up behind you and starts punching or kicking me in the head while I'm on their friend, it's a very good chance, especially like nowadays in big groups. When do you ever see a one-on-one fight? I could sit here, be squeezing, I could start, hearing him starting to breathe differently and know that, okay, he's about to go to sleep, and then all of a sudden, boom, I get whacked on the side of the head, guys are coming in, kicking me, punching me, ripping me off, and they're all his buddies because they see me choking him on the ground. And then if my buddies decide to jump in, like now we're just in a big brawl. So it's not from like that point of standpoint, if there are multiple attackers or just multiple people around, not a position I would recommend to be in because now I'm stuck underneath him. And even if I'm sitting here holding him and somebody starts kicking me, like the only way for me to defend myself at that point is to release and start covering up, which means that now this guy's just gonna start turning around and pounding me. And now I just went from being in the most dominant position in the world to I'm getting my ass kicked on the ground by by the guy that I was about to put to sleep and all his friends all together. If I know that there is a weapon, then I definitely don't want to be in this position. But if I am in this position, I have to really make sure that I am starting to either, instead of go double hooks, I want to try and lock my feet up as high as possible so that I can essentially cover the waistband, because obviously that's where the weapons are probably going to be. And so at least on this way, it makes it difficult for them to grab if I can. But again, I'm not always going to be able to get my legs this high. Maybe I can start looking to trap arms and just kind of lock down the body as much as I possibly can and just keep them from grabbing it. But let's talk realistic. If you land, you get on the back and we're going like this, again, most street fights, unless they've already shown you that they have a weapon, I'm not going to know until it's engaged. So if I'm sitting here choking and I'm doing all this, I physically can't see what he's doing with his hands. I can feel if he's grabbing my arms, if he's fighting with my arms. Like obviously, yes, that's a feel, like I can see a little bit up here. I can't see anything down here. So if all of a sudden he reaches, like I might just think that his arm's like maybe starting to push off my knee or something, but instead he reaches for a knife. And now my legs are fully exposed. Now he starts stabbing, and now, again, I'm stuck here. He's on top of me. I can't do anything. Like, sure, maybe I can start hitting, but at this point, like how many stabs are you gonna take before it kind of clicks and like, oh shit, I'm being stabbed, and now I have to react. So this idea that just the fact that there could be a weapon involved completely changes the whole purpose of why we shouldn't be taking the back on the street, which also, again, goes back to the point of just because you know jiu-jitsu doesn't mean that it can translate directly into street self-defense or just protecting yourself in a real world environment. Because again, sometimes we might land here. So before I just tell you, like, don't ever take the back, let's at least like talk about what happens if you do get to the back. If I land here and I understand like, okay, we're on the ground, this isn't the best situation, I want to get out. And I understand that his job is going to be, or his focus, not job, but his focus is going to be looking to get out and just get away and start hitting me. So I want to make sure that if we land here, like in a scramble, if I end up here, I start choking and then it clicks like, oh yeah, watch that YouTube guy and he told me not to go here. Now I have to get out. So my focus is going to be working back up to top, either with a knee on belly, which would be my personal ideal, or some form of mount. So my job is going to be release that bottom hook. Because once he feels this pressure and all of a sudden it's gone, like even an inexperienced guy is gonna start looking to get their hips away, all right? So as he starts looking to climb away, my job, not necessarily coming all the way up in the mount, but instead, once I feel him move away, I wanna take my top hook, get behind his leg here, and I'm actually going to help by tossing him a little bit. Again, you're not gonna get much, but I'm just helping his hips move so that now I can start kind of going belly down, start pressuring up behind, and we work up into crossface. I can work up onto knee on belly a little bit, and then from here, like now, I can start posting on the head a little bit. If I need to, I can drop like a quick strike from here just to kind of control him, but I can get control of the arms. Obviously, like with this arm here, I can easily pin that with my legs. I can work into a mount, I can work into a high mount. Like any of these positions are better to handle because one, my like knee on belly, if he has a weapon, he can't grab it, no, right? And then obviously if I'm like pinning, controlling the arms, whatever the case is from here, like if I've got a good like pressure on the head, or I'm pressuring down, or I've got a good crossface, like now I'm in a position that I can control. But what's the other point is now I can also kind of keep my head a little bit more on a swivel. Like obviously I can't technically always see behind my back as easily, but if all of a sudden I see somebody running, I can quickly pop back up, right? Even mount isn't necessarily the best because if I'm so locked down like this, like I still can't see what's going on. And if he's a bigger guy and he starts trying to hip bump me, like that momentum might actually toss me off. So I would recommend playing a little bit more of a loose position on top to an extent, but with pressure. Loose in the sense that I can quickly move, but tight in regards to pressure. As we're coming up, right, I would love if I could work, you know, maybe some form of gift wrap, and instead of just going knee on belly, I pressure him down and I get him to start kind of bellying down a little bit more to where now, like at this point, now I'm in back control. Like if I got him to go completely belly down, now I'm in back control, but I'm not in a bad position. I'm in a good position again. I can post, I can pin the arms. If he did have a weapon, it's a lot easier for me to manage a weapon from here. And I've got points of control and contact that again, I can sit here, I'm comfortable, I'm quick to be able to move, but I don't necessarily have to worry about the fear of a weapon, multiple attackers, lack of movement, that type of thing. Jiu-Jitsu is great, and it'll definitely help you protect yourself. But don't get it in your head that just because you do jiu-jitsu, you don't need to train in anything else. And I understand not everyone does jiu-jitsu for a self-defense aspect. People want to compete, people want to work out, some people just enjoy doing the sport as a whole, but they don't care about the self-defense aspect. If you are one that does, and you want to make sure that your jiu-jitsu applies to the street, you have to add in variables. Not all the time, but you have to consider them. Work with different variations of striking. Work with weapon control, weapon retention. Like, you have to add in real world application for any discipline that you wish to convert over to some form of self-defense application, whether it's, again, jiu-jitsu, boxing, Thai boxing, MMA, whatever. If you want to take your discipline and say like, oh, how does this work in the street situation? You got to practice it just like you'll practice anything else. So if you did enjoy the video, give it a thumbs up. It helps with the algorithm, which again means more people see the channel. Hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications, and we'll see you next time.